Praise God. Thank you, Lord. I had a question posed to me a while back, actually several months ago, posed to me by a young lady. And she was having trouble sorting things out and dealing with things as she's seen it. And as near as I can remember, I wrote down a question here to me. She approached me and she made these accusations against God. And she said, there's no doubt that humans want to sin. Humans want to sin. Why would a loving God that does not want us to sin create us with that desire? What an evil thing to do, she said. She said, apparently, he wants us to sin. And she said, how's that fair? And she went on to say, she said, that's sick. She was very upset, young lady. And apparently she had a problem, a sin problem that she couldn't overcome. And she decided, preachers have told her, and from what she gets out of the Bible, that man has an innate desire to sin. That we're created that way. That's the way we are because of Adam. And she said, why would he expect us not to sin and then tempt us, she said, by giving us the desire to do it? I'm still not saying anything. I'm listening. And she said, how could he be a loving God? And so this question, I wrote it down. I wrote a conversation down at the time. And it wasn't a young lady in our church, in our fellowship. But she was quite distraught and just about at her end, because she decided that she was created to sin, and she couldn't do anything about it. And she said, I know we are, because I'm told that it's man's nature to sin. And I said, well, first of all, the Bible tells us that God doesn't tempt us.
That's right.
God is not a tempter.
Yes.
And I gotta say that it caused me to give a lot of thought and prayer and meditation to that. And I hope I satisfactorily answered, but I think it's probably a question that deep down maybe kind of plagues us all at times. Why do I have this desire to sin? Do I have a desire to sin? And if I believe less in the power of our sin, it would have less power upon us. If I believe less in the power of sin, then it would have less power on me. If we believe more in the power of men dwelling in Christ, then he would have more power within us. If we said to ourselves, it is possible, then we should make it possible. He said, all things are possible through Jesus Christ. And so the impossibility arises only from our own weaknesses. We come up, Russ, I started off this by saying I believe that we give the devil too much credit and God too much blame. And this arose from a question that a young lady had several months ago. The possibility arises only from our own weakness, from our sinful weakness. And though it may be true, and is true, that none of us will live without sin as long as we abide here, it is also true that each moment of interruption of our communion with Christ, and therefore each moment of interruption of that being filled with the fullness of God, might have been avoided. We know that every such time that we could have helped it if we had liked. If we had liked, if we wanted, if we worked, if we knew it was possible, if we thought it was possible, instead of saying, well, I'm imperfect, and just letting it go there and doing the best we can, but not working the best we can after his righteousness. It's no use bringing any general principles about sin cleaving to men in order to break the force of that conviction. But if that conviction be a real one, and if whenever a Christian man or woman loses the consciousness of God in his heart, making him blessed, then he's obliged to say, it is my own fault. It's my own fault. If you lose that consciousness, that awareness of God, because he would have stayed had I chosen. Then there follows that if it's possible, notwithstanding all the imperfection and sin of earth, that we may be filled with all the fullness of God. We must know that it's possible to be filled with the fullness of God. Therefore, if we're filled with the fullness of God, we reap the fullness of his benefits here on earth, now, right now, today. And that being love, joy, being fruit of the Spirit, all the fruit of the Spirit, and all 9 fruits in full measure. So if you are filled with the fullness of God, we must know that the possibility of that is here. It's for us. We can. We have to know also that that sin, we have to diminish in our mind the power of sin over us, not just concede, okay, I'm created to be sinful. And I'm going to skip over because I've got a lot of notes, but I want to try to get a point across here. It must be Christ dwelling in our hearts that fills them with the fullness of God. There's no other way. Where he comes, God comes. The Holy Spirit, where the Holy Spirit comes, God comes. And where does he come? He comes where faith opens the door, where we open the door. If you'll trust Jesus Christ, if you will distrust yourselves, if you will turn your thoughts and your hearts to him instead of our thoughts, our reasoning, our sound reasoning, and not filter him through my reasoning. When I filter him through my reasoning, it's most of the good stuff won't get through that filter. I must be open to him and him alone. Set aside my reasoning. As Cat Curry says, put your mind on a shelf. Set it aside. If you'll turn all your thoughts and your hearts to him, if you will let him come to your souls and not shut him out, because your souls are so full. Your soul, remember what our soul is. Our thoughts, our will, our emotions. If we shut him out because our souls, my thoughts are too full of other things, then there won't be no room for him. Then he comes, when he comes, he'll not come empty-handed, but he'll bring a full Godhead with him. He'll bring the fullness, the power of God with him. There must be an emptying of self. If there is to be a filling with God, and the emptying of self is realized in that faith, which forsakes self-confidence, self-righteousness, self-dependence, self-control, self-pleasing, and yields itself wholly to God. This conscious experience of the love which is in Christ will bring to us the fullness of God, the love which is in Christ. That's always the bottom line. Love is power. Love is God. the sense and experience of God's love to us, then we have the power and we have the God of love in us. Uh, when we're plunged into love head over heels, then we're filled with His fullness. We're filled with His fullness. We do not. Now remember what I said this young lady asked. Why did God create us to sin? The way we need to keep our mind on the Master. It all comes to that. Meditate on it. Don't let days pass without our thoughts being turned to Him. Don't go about your daily work without a remembrance of Him. Keep yourselves in Christ. Stay in Him. Seek to experience His love. That love which passes knowledge and is only known to them who possess it. And then, as the old painters with deep truth used to paint the apostle of love with a face like his master, living near Christ and looking upon Him, you will receive His fullness. And we all, with open face, beholding the glory, shall be changed to glory. I want to tell you here the Adamic nature, the nature of Adam. And we've all heard that it is the nature of Adam that we have inherited that causes us to sin. Now, at first, God did not create us with a desire to sin. He didn't create Adam and Eve with a desire to sin. However, one of the most identifying characteristics of being created in God's own image is the characteristic of free will. All right, Barb, how y'all doing? Characteristic of free will. I want to go back, bring Rick and Barb up here. I'm going to just tell you what. This is from several months ago. A young lady asked me this question and started off. I'm the opinion that we give the devil too much credit and we give God too much blame. And this young lady, and I wrote it down at the time. Here's what I wrote. She said, "There's no doubt that humans want to sin. Why would a loving God that does not want us to sin create us with that desire? What an evil thing to do," she said. "Apparently, He wants us to sin. How is that fair?" This young lady was having a problem she was having a sin problem that obviously she could not get shut up. And so she had went ahead and justified it by saying, "I just can't help it. I'm created to sin." How is that fair? Why would He expect us not to sin and then tempt us by giving us a desire to do it? God don't tempt us. I told her that day, and she said, "That's sick." She said, "How could He be a loving God?" Is this a dilemma for the Bible? Is this a dilemma for God of the Bible? And God of the Bible is very clear. And we've had no telling how many times the Adamic nature, the nature passed on to us through Adam and Eve, has been quoted in sermons and teaching and everybody. And I think it's misunderstood somewhat, misrepresented somewhat. And we have to know, well, I'm going to put that, while sin might be viewed as wrong acts, played out in our emotions to the final extent, wrong act of it. That is not the real problem.
That's right.
The act is not the real problem. The deeds or acts of sin are the fruits of an unregenerate person.
Yes, right.
And that's a sin. Now, I still remember, I disagree with the young lady, and I'll tell you why. Yes, we do have an Adamic nature. We do have the nature of Adam and Eve. But the understanding of that nature is what we need to be clear on because it's a thing that gets balled up and keeps us balled up, and I'm going to get to that. In fact, it actually is a relationship with the Adamic sinful nature, but not a relationship as we might think. One of the most defining characteristics of a man being created in God's image is free will. We have a spirit and we have a free will. The spirit you don't see on me, but you see my free will and everything I do. Because it's a choice. Free will is freedom of choice. And just like our law now is freedom of choice, it's still sin to kill a baby, but they give them freedom of choice. And but anyway, that's the most defining characteristics of me or you to the world, to anyone else, of being created in His image is a free will. So God could have made Adam not to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Remember, the tree was called knowledge of good and evil. God could have made Adam to not eat of the fruit of the tree of knowledge, but he did not. But he did eat. I'm sorry. He did not put the tree there to tempt Adam. Now, here's something I want you to get. He put the tree there for Adam to express obedience. Obedience is the only way that Adam can express free will. It's the only way. In other words, everything that Adam could have done and said in the Garden of Eden, when he was first created, everything was good. Everything was perfection. There was no evil. Therefore, if you don't have a choice, then we could be robotic beings. He wants us to make the choice. Make the choice to serve. So he gave us a free will. How would our obedience, how would we be able to carry out that free will without obedience? Why would we need obedience unless there was something there to make a choice over? There was one choice. Here's this one tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Now, God gave him and Eve the cause of it all. No. God gave him and Eve the choice to eat of that and the free will to do that. It was not his desire to do that. See, he had told them, that's the only rule he had. He had told them, don't do that. And so it was his desire that they be obedient to him. Had they been obedient to him, there would be the Adamic nature would be perfection. And Adam and Eve would probably still be alive. But that wasn't the case. Therefore, when we say the Adamic nature is not to sin. He didn't create us like Adam to sin. He created us with the free will that we have the knowledge of sin. See, it's not inherent in me. See, because I'm born does not mean that I have a natural desire to sin, just as I have a natural desire to eat. If I don't eat, I'll die. I have that. That's inherent in me. He created me to eat. He did not create me to sin. He created me not to sin. So if I can live without sinning, I can't live without eating. Okay? Especially me. So understand this. The way it's preached, it's preached correctly. We do have an Adamic nature. However, I present to you that it's misunderstood by most all of us. And it's misunderstood in the fact that this young woman understood it, this young lady, that since I'm like Adam, that it's my nature to sin. No, it's my nature to have a free will, and it's my nature to have the knowledge of the difference of sin, good and evil. That is my Adamic nature. And I'll go on here and give you some more proof. The bigger problem is not just doing wrong, but it's being wrong by using your free will to go against your God, your choice. Your choice. Jesus plainly said, he said, a tree is known by the fruit that it bears. Can an evil tree bear good fruit? Neither does a good tree bear evil fruit. It is very popular today in the pulpits to hear that we are all sinners. Yes, we are all sinners insofar as we must be saved from the penalty of mankind's sin. Jesus was not a sinner. Jesus died on the cross and took on the penalty of all sin. Of all sin. He did not sin. He took on my penalty. So I thought that the called and chosen, born again, water and spirit, were sons of God. If a son fails, the Lord can restore him. But he did not cease to be the Son of God when he failed. My children have failed me many times, but they never ceased being my children. A true son of God does not live in a state of sin, but is restored and doesn't practice sin on a continual basis. Even though Jesus died a sinner's death in our stead, it was not because of his sin. It was because he took the penalty of our sin, what we do. And allergies really got me. But he was not a sinner. He didn't sin in the 33 and a half years he was here on earth. He drank our bitter cup of sin when he died a sinner's death on the cursed tree at Golgotha. I know this crosses the modern day theology of the modern church, but not being right with God is a very serious thing. It's not the sin, it's not the act, it's the choice that we make. It's not doing wrong, it's being wrong with God. It's not doing something against God, it's being against God. It's me. I must take responsibility for it. And this whole thing wraps back around to the age of irresponsibility. Not accountable. You're not accountable. So that non-accountability, and I've said for years and years, you remove accountability, you remove the restraint to sin.
That's right.
And when that rolls around, if I have something that I can blame my faults on, I'll do it. That is the nature of man.
That's right.
Yeah. I believe in the grace of God, but one can frustrate despite to the spirit of grace and even turn the grace of God into lasciviousness. Jude 4, Jesus did not die for lost humanity through sympathy, but knew it was the only way to make atonement for a lost soul. He cried out on the cross, "It is finished." And it is. Praise God, it is finished, and it is. I wrote some notes on this. I want you to understand here. Charlotte, you keep track of my time, says. For the sake of argument, because this is important to understand that it is not God who created us to sin.
That's right.
He created us with a free will. It's my choice as to whether I sin or not. God does not want us to sin. So I can't justify my sin by saying, oh, well, I'm an imperfect flesh. That don't cut it. What I should be saying is, oh, well, I made a wrong choice. I made a wrong. The free will is a big deal. Everything you do in life, you make a choice to get out of your car and walk in here. Everything you do in life is a choice. So for the sake of argument here, I want to, we'll assume for a moment that it is true that God created us with a sin, with a desire to sin. For the sake of argument, because I want to bring out some things for you. First, if we grant that He created us with a desire to sin, is it not also true that He simultaneously created us with an ability to choose not to sin? In other words, He did not create us so that we had to sin. He clearly gave us free will, the freedom to make our own decision. Every capable human proves on a daily basis that he does, in fact, have the freedom to do or not to do various activities. We are not mindless robots that act solely on instinct. No matter how intense a particular temptation is, it has been proven to be able to resist it by man. I don't care what the temptation is. It can be resisted. It's been proven to be able to be resisted. Now, if God wanted us to sin and had the power to cause us to sin, why would He create us with the ability to choose not to do so? That would not make sense. Ironically, at the very beginning of time, God directly stated that it is not He, and here's what I'm getting at. It is not He who wants sin to rule over us. Sin has a desire to do so, but He created us with the ability to rule over it. I want Genesis 4 and 7. I want to show you where that's at. If I can find Genesis. This is a big deal right here. We must know this. Genesis 4 and 7. Okay. Okay. If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at the door, and here it is, and its desire is for you, but you should rule over it. Sin was not put in the world by God. Who is the root? Who's the root of sin? What's the bottom line of sin? The devil. Lucifer. He is the opposite of God. He wanted to have his own kingdom. Well, he's got it. And so sin. Let's say put Satan in there, Lucifer, whatever you want to call it. So this says, and if you do not do well, Satan lies at the door, and his desire is for you, but you should rule over. That means that it is not God who created you to sin. It's Satan who wants you to sin. It's Satan who is the tempter, but you should rule over it, it says right here in Genesis 4:7. And that tells me there's a way. I don't have to give in. Just because the tree is standing there in the garden, just because the fruit looks good, I have a free will. If the tree were not there, if the temptation were not there, the free will would be of no use, no value. I wouldn't have a free will. There would be no choices to make. But there are choices. We're in this world. Every day you have choices. Jake, every day you're at work or wherever you are, you have choices to make. And I guarantee you, in your world, you probably have a lot more than I do in my world. One reason is because I'm not exposed to. I can pick and choose the people who I'm around more than you can probably if you're working on a job. And I do try to be around people who are going to be encouragers to me. And that goes to both Jake. Jake, you're in school, and I can't imagine the temptations that there are in school nowadays. And it will bring you down. But you don't have, it's a choice you make. It's just a choice. It's not, I'm a flawed person. It's not, I'm created to sin. You're not created to sin. You're created with a free will. You're created to be able to rise above it. All things are possible. All things are possible. And it's proven. Proven. There's no sin that man can't rule over. That man does, you don't have to succumb to it. Further, even if God did create us with a desire to sin, now listen to this, is it not also strange that he would give us a way of being cleansed or forgiven from that evil that we desire to engage in? In other words, if he created us to sin, why would he give us a way to be forgiven of it?
That's right.
That's not his will. That's not, he didn't make you that way. It's not because you're imperfect that you sin. It's because you made a choice to sin. That's what it is, pure and simple. You're in this world. This world is Satan's. This is his playground. Everywhere we go. If he wanted us to fail, why would he do such a thing? The gift of forgiveness in the biblical model is a blatant inconsistency with such an idea and serves as a formal proof that God does not want us to sin. Even more curiously, if he wanted us to sin, why would the system of forgiveness that he instituted entail his own agonizing death? He does not want us to sin. This young lady was wrong. This young lady could not find the strength in herself to turn away from this. Therefore, she was blaming it on God. Why did God create man to sin? Young lady, he did. He created you with a choice. He created you with the ability to have the power to rule over that. But it's up to me to plug that power in.
That's right.
I can have the filthiest carpet that anybody ever seen, and somebody can give me the most expensive, best vacuum cleaner in the world. Said this will clean that up, make it spotless. And I can take it. Yep, I got it. I possess it. I'm holding it here. I can do whatever I want to do. But until I plug into that thing, until I plug it into the power, it's going to stay filthy.
That's right.
It's going to stay filthy. I got to do something.
That's right.
I have to plug it in.
That's right.
I'm going to do it.
That's right.
It's not, God is not going to take that desire away. He's not going to take that choice away. If my dog was only my dog because I kept him on a chain, he couldn't get away from me, we wouldn't have a very good relationship. I once knew a guy that had a dog, and for the life of me, he couldn't even get close enough for that dog to feed it. That dog would eat you up. And his owner, I asked him, why in the world do you keep that dog? You had it in a pen out there, and you had a place you could pour the food in. I said, what's with that? I never did understand. God wants a relationship with me. He wants to love. He wants me to love him. He is love. He is love. So he wants me to be able to choose him. See, when I choose to sin, to do what is not right, it's not the act that I've done that's the big problem. It's I have rejected him. I have rejected what he desires of me. And therefore my relationship with him is damaged. Such a selfless act is not something God would do to want us to sin to go to hell. Such behavior is, however, something merciful God would do. A God who wanted to give us independence and freedom of choice and still give us a way to be forgiven when we make wrong decisions. That said, it simply is not accurate to say that God created man with an inherent desire to do evil. He did not. If anything, since he gave us a conscious and inherent sense of justice and fairness, he created us with a pull or a pressure to not do certain things. Every human being on the planet understands that there are some things that are fair and some things that are not fair, and an unseared conscience That's what he gave us. That's what he called. That's what we call this. An unseared conscience, a conscience that is not seared with sin, pressures us to do the right thing by others. Even people who are not Christians, who have not accepted Christ as their Lord and Savior, do good works because their conscience tells them to. That is an inherent thing in us. It's not an inherent thing in us that God put in us to sin. Good is an inherent thing in us. A man who never heard the name of Jesus Christ, if he's got a neighbor that's hungry and wants to give him food. That is inherent. That is God. But then you got the devil over here saying, wait a minute, you ain't got very much food. I'll be right out here tomorrow, the next day, or the next day. Then you have to make a choice. You have to make a choice. And further, while we sometimes might desire to do evil, is it not also true that in other times we have a desire to do good? And I just went over this. God did create us with a desire to do what's right. Even the most hardened atheist or agnostic has a desire from time to time to do what's right, because that is innate in us. You know why? Because it makes us feel good. Now, to simplify this, it makes us, it gives us a feeling of satisfaction to know that we've helped someone. I think probably most all human beings have that. And that makes us feel good. If we do something for someone else that's needed, that makes us feel good. So that is the motivator for the choice. That's inherent in us. So that is what drives us to make that choice to do good. In the same way, sin can make us feel good. Sin can make us feel good. That's why we have an inherent nature. We don't have an inherent nature of sin. We have an inherent nature to feel good. We have an inherent nature that we want to do things that will make us feel good. So our choice is, do I do things that will make me feel good, that are right things, or do I do things that will make me feel good, that are wrong things? It's not the deed, it's me, the chooser, the one who's making a choice. You do. You make a choice. Nobody, chances are, most of the choices, nobody will ever know that you made a choice. Nobody, you can do things that nobody here on this earth will ever know about, that you've made a choice to do good or to do bad. Amen. So it's still our choice. If God created us with a desire to sin, it must also concede that He created us with a desire to do good. How can this apparent contradiction be explained? It is not likely that God did not in fact create us with a desire to sin. We desire both activities at times because we have discovered that they both can make us feel good in different ways. That said, it is fair and consistent to conclude that God created us with that desire, the desire to feel good, to be happy, to appreciate pleasure, to desire enjoyment and satisfaction, not purely the desire to do evil. It's a desire to feel good. And the devil will show you things, he'll convince you that'll make you feel good. That's temporary. The devil he's not the God of eternity. He's not the God who can direct your path into goodness. He has a way. And we have a way that seems right. It can make you feel good. But God is the God of eternity. Oh, He's sovereign over everything. For example, and I said this, we were created to want to eat and to feel good from doing so, but not with the desire with cannibals, not the desire to eat others. Eating makes you feel good. Some people eat other people. That's not God's will. That's a choice. That's a choice. Perhaps it'd be better to describe it this way. God created us with a capacity to experience and appreciate feeling good. When we feel good, we naturally want to continue having that feeling. Those things with which we choose to fill the good feel tank. They are our decisions as individuals with free will. They are our decisions. We can feel good. We can experience those things. We can experience joy. We can experience gratification. We can experience all those things. It's our choice as to which way we do it. God didn't create me to sin. God created me with a knowledge. Because Adam he ate the tree of knowledge, not the tree of sin. He ate the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So now I have that knowledge of what's good and evil. I also have a conscience in me. And he created me with a free will in his image. As I said before, we give the devil way too much credit. And I've said this jokingly, oh, the devil made me do it. I've said that jokingly. You've heard people say that. Well, that's not really. Huh? Okay. Well.
Frank, don't you think this girl was brainwashed? She was brainwashed so much that she had to put the fault on God because that's the way she was taught.
We all do. That's exactly right. We are brainwashed. We are told that we have a sinful nature, and in one way that's true, but in the more accurate way, we have an awareness of sin, and awareness of good, and we have the choice. That's a more accurate way of saying it. In other words, the way it's understood, I believe, by most, is that we automatically are sinful, uncreated. We are born into that. And we are born in that because of what Adam did. But we are not made to sin because of what Adam did. We just know the difference between sin and good because of what Adam did. Yes.
She probably didn't have a choice because she probably got blamed in some way. So maybe that's the way she was taught and brainwashed.
It is how she was taught and brainwashed. It's how she understood. Whether she was specifically taught that, I don't know. But it is how she understood. And I believe that most of us understood. If you say in here, how many of us have a sinful nature, probably every hand would go up. And it is true in the one sense of the word, but the more accurate sense of the word is that we have a nature to know the knowledge of sin and evil, good and evil. That's the more accurate phrase. He didn't create me just to sin. It makes no sense why he would create me to sin and then provide a way of forgiveness and cleansing for me. That makes no sense at all.
That's right.
Amen. Yeah, Barb?
I also think our sin nature, just because we have one, tends to find someone else to blame.
Absolutely. That's like.
Whether we taught it, I mean, you talk to an atheist, 95% of the time when you're talking to an atheist, you're talking about someone who got hurt somewhere.
That's right, Barb.
And hates God for it and blames God for it.
I call that our justification mechanism.
There you go.
It makes no difference, I think, what we do. We have a way, because we're in the age of no personal responsibility. Doctors now tell you, well, you're not responsible because your great grandpa once whipped your dad. Whatever it is, we are taught now that it's not our fault. We're victims. And that has exacerbated the problem. We're created with that, Barb. You're exactly right. We are created with that justification mechanism. But now, for the last 5 decades, we've been told by professionals that it's not our fault.
That's right.
So it's someone else. That's where we go wrong, because I have to make a choice. And it's me and me alone that makes that choice. Me and me alone. It's not God's desire that I sin. It's not God's desire that I would. But I can't love Him unless He gives me a free will to love Him.
Praise God.
there would have never been a choice. There would have never been a free will. The obedience is what brings out the free will. It's when God created that tree in the garden, and He created it not so that Adam would eat it. He created it so that Adam would be obedient to His one command. Without obedience, I mean, if we don't have to be obedient, we have no need for a free will. If we're robots and there is no way to not be obedient, then we have no need for a free will. We do have a free will. That is one of the most identifying characteristics of the human man, created in His image, a spirit and a free will. I'm going to quit because I'm running over in time. If anybody got any more questions or wants to talk to me about whatever, the preacher will be tickled to death to explain all of my. But I'm serious. If anybody has any questions, let me know. I'd love to talk about it. So remember Genesis 4:7. 4:7. Remember that from Scripture.